I rolled into Ed's driveway at about 9:30 p.m. I don't really go to parties that often if I'm going to be honest. I usually just enjoy hanging out in the comfort of my own home or with a small group of friends at one of their houses. But Halloween shindigs only come around once a year, and one of this magnitude I'll actually have a chance of attending comes around way fewer than that. Although if I thought I could get away with it, I probably would have gone trick-or-treating instead. I'll take free candy over free beer any day of the week. Inside, I found myself aimlessly walking around with an empty cup in my hand, trying to find somebody I actually knew. Could be Ed, Paul, Topher. I really don't care. I just didn't want to have to strike up a conversation with a complete stranger. I'm not really the kind of guy to walk up to someone and know what to say. I'm the kind of guy to walk up to someone and say, "Hey," and then they'll say hey, and then we'll both just kind of look over each other's shoulders until one of us walks away. Though it might be fun to cringe at if you watched it happen, it's pretty unbearable to actually experience. Eventually, I did run into a friend of mine, Topher, and boy oh boy, did he have quite the costume on. He chose to dress up as none other than Jeff the Killer, the internet creepypasta meme that went viral about a lifetime ago. Walking up to me after making eye contact from across the room, I could see that he had really gone the extra mile in his makeup job. His face was completely caked in white makeup, and some black rubbed around his eyes. He had some bright red lipstick on that he extended upwards towards his cheekbones to give the illusion of an eternal smile. Think of the Joker from The Dark Knight, but less cool. Much less cool, in fact. I've never really understood why Jeff the Killer was so popular, in all honesty. I mean, the image itself is kind of jarring to see at first, but there's far, far worse, such as Smile Dog or really any other creepypasta image. It's also unbelievably obviously photoshopped, but I guess that's not too important these days. What bothers me the most about Jeff is that the story isn't even that great, and it seems more like something for edgy kids to get off on than anything else. But regardless, there's no denying Jeff the Killer's notoriety and popularity, and so I can't say Topher's costume wasn't fitting. "Hey man, glad you could make it," Topher said, with his hand raised in preparation for a high five as he walked over to me. I met his five, as I said. "Yeah, no problem, man. I probably won't stay for long, but I wanted to stop by for a bit and hang out. You seen Ed around here anywhere?" "You know, I saw him in the basement a bit earlier, but I'm not sure where he is now," Topher said. "But listen, man, I gotta tell you about something." I glanced down at my watch. Yes, I still wear a watch, to discover it was about 9:50 p.m. now. I kinda wanted to be out of there by 10:30, if I could help it, as I knew if I stayed any later, I was at a serious risk of getting hammered, which, based on previous experiences of mine, may or may not affect my judgment to the point where I may or may not attempt to drive home under the influence. So it would be for the best if I could just mosey around, say hi to all of my friends, have a good little time, and make it back before the Sci-Fi Channel plays A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 at 11:30. That was my goal. Whether I would stick to it or not was a different story altogether. I found this website, man. He pulled a little crumpled up piece of paper out of his pocket and held it out to me as he continued. It's full of weird and obscure rituals and challenges and stuff. And there was this one I came across about Jeff the Killer. That's why I dressed up as him, actually. That was one of the steps. I grabbed the piece of paper and opened it up to see a long, nonsensical URL that was basically just a bunch of random numbers and letters thrown together. "That sounds cool," I said. "But what's the point? Like, what happens if you complete the ritual successfully?" His fake Jeff the Killer smirk quickly turned into a real one. "You summon him," he said. "You summon Jeff the Killer." "Uh-huh," I said, crumpling up the piece of paper yet again and stuffing it down into the depths of my pocket. "Sounds pretty spooky, man," I said in a somewhat sarcastic tone. "You don't think this is interesting? You read how weird the URL was, right?" Topher said defensively. It's interesting, man, I guess. I just don't really find Jeff the Killer that engaging. You don't really believe anything's going to happen, do you? I don't know, he said, dejected and somewhat let down. But I'm gonna find out. Hey, you go for it, man, I said. I hope you have fun. I patted him on the back twice, as if to say, good talk, and moved onward in my search to find Ed at the very least, so I could leave this party without feeling like a piece of shit for not saying hello to the host. I walked down the steps to the basement to see Ed hanging out on the couch, drink in one hand and a cigarette in the other. It's kind of odd to see someone smoking inside these days, especially in the basement. But it's his house, I guess, so more power to him. Hey Ed, great party, I said, in forced excitement as I sat down next to him. I'm really glad I came. Oh, I'm so glad you could come by, Trev. Hey, how about some shots to toast in the night, huh? Oh man, I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I'm probably gonna be heading out here sometime soon, and I really don't. Come on, man, he interrupted. You just got here, didn't you? Stick around for a while, have fun, live a little. What's life even about if you can't get shit-faced every once in a while, right? I guess, yeah, I said, reluctantly watching him pour 2 shots. I don't know if that's a good idea, man. Remember last time? Trust me, you're not gonna regret this. Drink up, he said as he handed me the shot of tequila, seemingly ignoring my concern. I downed it, and that was pretty much the end of the night I had planned. I resigned to getting drunk and letting loose, something I hadn't done in a very long time. But I needed this, and I think Ed knew it. Or maybe he's just a horrible influence who would have tried to convince Mother Teresa to have a glass. Either way, I guess it doesn't matter. I ended up passing out in the basement after a few more drinks. I didn't get too drunk to function, but I did get far more intoxicated than I was used to. And all I needed was a soft couch cushion under my head to seduce me through the gates of slumber. I was woken up abruptly at about 5 a.m. with a hand on my shoulder. I was already pretty sober by this point, but I don't think that helped me identify the Jeff the Killer in front of me as my harmless buddy Topher fast enough. After jumping back and letting out a minor yelp, I let out a sigh of relief. Jesus Christ, Topher, you scared the shit out of me. Sorry, man, I didn't mean to wake you up, I really need someone right now, he said. What are you talking about? I said with my eyes closed, ready to drift back off to sleep as soon as I was possibly able to. This ritual, man, it's really starting to get weird. And I'm starting to get weird. I don't feel right, Trev. I feel really fucking off. He looked around nervously and then leaned in closer, speaking in a loud whisper. I think this is going to end badly. Looking at him now, I could definitely believe he was feeling off. The makeup that once made up a layer about as thick as a mask covering his face now looked as though it was melting, dripping off through his sweat and around his eyes, possibly tears. What do you mean you think this is going to end badly? What's going to end badly? I was still confused and apathetic due to my state, but my concern was growing by the moment. Topher was a bit of a goofball, but right now, he seemed to be on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I can't explain it. Can you please watch me and make sure nothing happens? I really don't trust myself right now. I did not like the sound of that plan. I was already exhausted beyond belief and felt as though my body had dissolved and become one with the couch. Topher, no, I'm too fucking exhausted. If you got freaked out by your ritual, just go to sleep. Everything will be fine in the morning, I promise, I said, despite not even making a concerted effort to understand what was going on. Trevor, please, he said, looking as though he was about to cry. Dude, I said I'm fucking exhausted. Go find someone else to comfort you or something. I quickly responded in a manner much more rude than I had intended. I closed my eyes after that, and after a few moments of silence, figured my demand had worked. They opened up once again hours later. How many hours, I wasn't quite sure. The lights were off and the windows were covered with thick black curtains, giving me no indication as to whether it was day or night. The only light I had was coming from a night light in the bathroom down the hallway, which brightened the pitch black darkness only slightly. I clicked the little glow in the dark button on my watch and saw that it was now about 7 a.m. God, I can't believe I stayed the night here. I barely even attend parties, let alone pass out drunk on somebody's couch. I sat myself up on the couch, but leaned my head back and closed my eyes once again. I was ready to fall back asleep already, and probably could have, if it wasn't for that strange sound. I couldn't tell what it was at first, but pretty quickly noticed that it sounded like slow, but deep breathing through a stuffed nose. I opened my eyes and looked around. Couldn't make out anything to my left, and I don't think anybody was sitting on the television in front of me. But to my right, about 15 feet away, was a man standing at the base of the stairs. It was too dark to make out really any details of value, besides the fact that I could tell his face was extraordinarily white, thanks to the minor glow from the bathroom. Unless someone else came to the party dressed in whiteface, I was willing to bet I could guess who that guy was. "Topher, what are you doing?" I asked, not really nervous, but somewhat curious. I received no response. "Topher, that you, man?" I asked again. He said nothing once more, just standing there in the darkness, facing towards me, watching me. "Cut this shit out, man. Are you okay? Did you settle down?" I don't even know why I asked that last question, really. If he was alright and had gotten over his little episode earlier, I doubt he'd be standing in the corner of some dark basement watching me sleep. At this point, I was starting to get a little creeped out, but decided I'd take one more shot at communicating with him like a normal human being. "Topher, what do I gotta do to get you to stop acting like such a whack job?" I saw the darkened silhouette of his head tilt ever so slightly to the side. After a brief moment of silence, either to process what he was going to say or for dramatic effect, he uttered, "Just go to sleep," in a hushed, raspy tone. Despite everything else that I had managed to look past, this finally sounded the alarm. I quickly got out my phone and, upon turning on the flashlight feature, aimed it at Topher and discovered what he had somehow become. He looked very similar to how he looked the last time I had seen him at first glance, and maybe if I looked away after only a second, perhaps I wouldn't have noticed that his eyelids had seemingly been ripped completely off of his face, his eyeballs sitting in his head like a pair of loose golf balls. Blood and snot oozed from the hole where his nose once was, and his elongated smile was no longer fake, but looked as though he had pulled a Heath Ledger and carved it out with some sort of sharp object. After noticing his new face, I looked down to see a kitchen knife in his right hand. He must have noticed this too, because he immediately began a charge straight for me, with the knife raised. I leapt out of the couch and in a sheer act of instinct tackled him to the ground, knocking the knife out of his hand as his body bounced against the hardwood floor. I pushed it away to be safe, and held him down as I screamed my guts out. Staring into his eyes as I called for help, I could see that all reason and logic had left him. He stared deep into my soul, laughing hysterically and fighting against my effort to contain him. After a few seconds, Ed came down the stairs and flipped the light switch. Seeing the bizarre situation, he called the police and helped me keep what was once Topher under control while we waited for them to arrive. He wouldn't stop laughing and kept on repeating, Just go to sleep, just go to sleep, just go to sleep. Over and over again, like some kind of demented mantra that meant nothing to anyone besides him. The police took him away that morning, and he was eventually taken to some mental institution upstate. They don't understand what happened to him, only that he lost his mind, mutilated his face. It won't stop repeating that stupid phrase. Go to sleep. They may not have a clue as to what happened to Topher, but I do. When I arrived back home that morning, exhausted from fighting off my mentally deranged friend dressed as Jeff the Killer, I discovered a little crumpled up piece of paper as I emptied my pockets. It was the piece of paper Topher had given me earlier in the night, before the drinking, and before he made his grotesque transformation. I unraveled it once again and read the bizarre URL. I haven't visited it yet, but I'd be lying if I said I haven't been thinking about it every single second of every single day since. What could that ritual have done to turn him into what he became? And for that matter, what did he become? Did he turn into a Jeff the Killer wannabe, or Jeff himself? I'm sorry, that question was ridiculous. Jeff the Killer is a fictional creepypasta story, not a real-life person. But still, I don't have any answers, but I do have this website link. I'm not sure if I have it in me to visit the site, but maybe I'll share it or something so others can go on and take a look for themselves. Though if Topher was able to stumble across it, I'm sure some of you can too if you put in enough effort. But I know I don't want to. I just want to stay home, watch scary movies, and try as hard as I can to focus on anything besides my friend's new Halloween costume. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's narration. I want to give a huge thanks to last month's $5 and up patrons: Meg C., Ian M., Cassandra, Red, Joseph M., Lake S., Ronnie K., Letty M., Hunter D., Greg S., Christopher B., TJ W., and all the other $5 and up and $2 patrons on screen as well. All of your support makes these narrations possible, and I appreciate it a ton. If you'd like to join these lovely ghouls, I'd appreciate it if you check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get an exclusive narration that will never, ever be uploaded to my channel. Usually, one a bit too extreme for YouTube. So that's at least one extra video every month for just $1, if not more. For $2 a month, you'll get thanked in the end scroll of every video, and for just $5 a month, I'll shout you out at the end of multiple videos a month personally. You also get exclusive Discord roles for those perks as well. If you'd like to chat with me for a bit, you can join me on a monthly live stream for just $10 a month and get a signed merch sticker for $25 a month. And if you're in the market for some horrifying shirts and hoodies, you can head on over to my Teespring store in the description as well. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at @2ndClancy. I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.